The Colorado mountains lay buried beneath a storm that felt almost alive. A white beast howling through Frost Hollow, swallowing sound, shadow, and hope. Ethan Ward, a war-scarred Army veteran, moved through the blizzard with his German shepherd Rex leading the way. Then he saw it, a dark streak against the snow, still warm, still steaming in the cold. Blood. Rex barked once, sharply, then sprinted ahead through the wind. Ethan followed and stopped cold. Half buried in the drift below was a Colorado State Patrol cruiser, flipped onto its side, its red and blue lights flickering weakly through the snow. He smashed the window. Inside, 2 officers lay bound and gagged, 1 man, 1 woman, their lips blue, their faces frozen in fear. The woman stirred, whispering through cracked lips, "Don't let them find us. They're not police anymore." Who were they running from? And what secret was worth killing for in the middle of a storm like this? What happens next will take you from the heart of a blizzard into a secret buried deep beneath the snow. A secret that will test faith, loyalty, and the line between science and the soul. Before we begin, please support us by subscribing to the channel and sharing your thoughts in the comments below. May this story remind you that even in the coldest night, God's light can still find its way through the storm. It was the 3rd night of the storm. Frost Hollow, Colorado lay buried under a suffocating shroud of white, the kind that erased all tracks, all sounds, even time itself. The old veterans in town said no blizzard had lasted this long since '93, when the river froze solid for 9 days straight. Ethan Ward trudged through the drifts anyway, his breath fogging the beam of his headlamp, boots crunching through the crusted snow. He had gone out that morning to check his traps near the northern ridge, but night had fallen faster than he'd planned, and now the mountains were a maze of wind and shadow. Rex, his 7-year-old German shepherd, moved ahead, tail low, nose close to the ground. The dog's sable coat was dusted in frost, but his gait was steady, each movement precise, economical. He had learned patience from his handler. Ethan, 45, looked like a man carved from the same stone as the range itself. Broad shoulders, face weathered by both war and weather. His eyes, a cold storm gray, had seen deserts burn and mountains bleed. He'd left the U.S. Army 12 years ago and never really came back from it. After his brother's death, he bought a rundown cabin outside Frost Hollow and traded the noise of the world for silence. Some said he was hiding from ghosts. Others said he'd just stopped running from them. The snow thickened as he neared the ravine. Rex suddenly stopped, muscles coiling, head turning sharply to the left. Ethan froze. "What is it, boy?" Rex sniffed the air, then padded forward through the white haze. A low growl rose from his chest, not fear, but warning. Ethan followed, hand brushing the rifle slung across his shoulder. That's when he saw it, a smear of crimson on the snow. It trailed downhill like spilled ink, still warm enough to steam faintly in the cold. Ethan crouched, touched it with his glove. "Not an animal," he muttered. Rex barked once, sharp and urgent, and bounded ahead. Ethan followed, sliding down the slope, until the trees opened into the ravine. There, half buried beneath the drifts, lay the twisted frame of a vehicle. Its flashing lights still blinked weakly beneath a crust of ice, red and blue bleeding together in the storm. It was a Colorado State Patrol SUV. Ethan smashed the passenger window with the butt of his knife, cold air rushing out, mixed with the copper scent of blood. 2 figures were inside, a man and a woman, both in uniform, hands bound with nylon cord, mouths taped. The woman slumped over the steering wheel, her pulse faint but steady. The man lay beside her, unmoving. "Rex, flashlight," Ethan ordered. The dog stayed near, eyes fixed on the shadows. He cut the cords, pulled them free, and dragged them one at a time through the snow. The woman was young, maybe 30, olive-skinned, dark hair matted with frost. Her badge read Ruiz D. The man, taller, heavier, bore sergeant stripes and a short beard. Mercer, K. Ethan checked. They're breathing. Still alive, he whispered. With the storm closing in, he had no choice. He slung the woman over his shoulder, leaving the man wrapped in a tarp for a second trip. The climb back up was brutal. The snow waist-deep, the wind slicing his face like knives. But he'd carried worse loads through worse nights. By the time he reached his cabin, his arms burned and his breath came ragged. He kicked open the door, laid her near the stove, and covered her with a wool blanket. Then he went back for the man. Rex met him halfway, barking sharply, a sound that wasn't alarm, but insistence. Ethan turned. Through the howl of the wind came a faint hum, mechanical, distant, wrong, like an engine idling somewhere beyond the ridge. He froze, scanning the dark, but the snow swallowed everything. Later, he muttered, hoisting Mercer's limp body onto his shoulder. Duh. Inside, he lit the fire until the walls glowed with orange warmth. The woman stirred first, her lips trembling, eyes fluttering open. Ethan leaned close. "You're safe," he said quietly. "You're in my cabin. Found you in a wreck." Her gaze darted around, unfocused. My partner." "Alive. Rest." But her hand shot up, gripping his sleeve with surprising strength. "Don't let them find us," she whispered, voice hoarse and broken. "They're not police anymore." Then her eyes rolled back, and she collapsed into unconsciousness. Ethan stared at her, the words sinking like stones. He glanced toward Rex, who was already at the window, ears pricked. The dog let out a low, uneasy growl. Outside, far down the mountain, that same engine hum pulsed again, slow, deliberate, moving through the storm like a heartbeat in the snow. Ethan chambered a round in his rifle and whispered, "Easy, boy." The blizzard roared louder, but beneath its howl, the sound of tires crunching ice crept closer, proof that whatever had hunted those officers wasn't finished yet. Rex's growl deepened, the storm howled back, and the night swallowed them whole. Morning came slow and pale, dragging a gray light over the mountains. The blizzard had eased, but Frost Hollow still looked like a battlefield buried in white. Ethan Ward stood by the window of his cabin, watching the snow drift past like falling ash. His rifle leaned against the wall beside him. The storm had calmed, but the silence that followed felt heavier. Behind him, the wood stove crackled. Rex lay curled near the fire, head resting on his paws, but eyes open, watchful. He hadn't slept through the night. Every sound, the pop of the logs, the moan of wind through the chimney, made his ears twitch. On the cot by the wall, Dana Ruiz stirred, her face still pale beneath a bandage on her temple. When her eyes opened, the fear from the night before returned, but softer now, tangled with confusion. Where am I?" Ethan handed her a cup of warm water. "My cabin. Found you and your partner in a wreck down the ridge." Her gaze darted to the other cot, where Kyle Mercer lay unconscious, his breathing steady. The sergeant's square jaw was bruised, his uniform torn. Even half awake, his posture was disciplined, a man shaped by command. Dana tried to sit up but winced. "How long have we been here?" "Since last night," Ethan said quietly. "Storm's lighter now. You'll live." She sipped the water, then looked at him properly for the first time. "You're military," she said, noting the precision in his movements. "Was," Ethan replied. "A long time ago." The silence that followed wasn't awkward, just heavy with things neither wanted to ask. Rex suddenly lifted his head, ears forward. He rose, padded to the door, and growled softly. Ethan frowned. "Easy, boy." He looked out the window. Nothing but snow. When he turned back, Dana was watching the dog, too. "He's trained," she said quietly. "Military K-9? Yeah, retired, like me." She hesitated. "Then maybe you'll understand this." She reached into her torn jacket pocket and pulled out a small black box. A military radio, older than the standard issue. The edges were dented, and across the metal casing, barely visible through the grime, were stamped words, "Property of Helios Division." Ethan's breath caught. He hadn't heard that name in years, not since Iraq, 2003, the day his unit went dark. "Where'd you get this?" he asked. "It was in our vehicle," Dana said, "part of an evidence transfer. We were ordered to deliver it to the state facility in Fort Collins. Then our GPS cut out. Command told us to abort the mission. 2 hours later, we were hit. Black SUVs, no plates. They moved like spec ops. We tried to get away. You saw how that ended." Ethan turned the radio over in his hands. A cracked label read, "Restricted Access, Neural Systems Prototype." Before he could say more, Rex nudged his leg and barked once. The sound was sharp, urgent. Ethan twisted the frequency dial, out of instinct. Static hissed. Then a voice, faint, fractured by time. "Echo Base. This is Reeve. They revived it. Stop." Then silence. Dana froze. "What did it say?" "Reeve," Ethan whispered. "Major Donald Reeve." Her brow furrowed. "You know him?" Ethan stared at the radio, memories flickering like ghosts. "He was my CO, ran the Helios experiments in Basra. They said he died in 2003. His chopper went down outside the city. They buried an empty coffin." Harper's words from long ago echoed in his mind. "Fear is the leash we put on humanity." Dana's voice trembled. If that was his transmission, he's alive. Ethan shook his head slowly. Or someone's using his signal. Rex growled again, deeper this time. The fur along his spine rose. Ethan crossed to the window and peered outside. At first, he saw only the frozen trees. Then, movement, faint shadows gliding between the pines. "Stay low," he whispered. Through the drifting snow, he spotted 2 figures in white tactical gear moving with surgical precision. No insignia, no radio chatter. One carried a compact rifle with a thermal scope. The other scanned the area with a handheld sensor. "Company?" Dana breathed. "Yeah," Ethan muttered. "Not the kind that knocks." He reached for his rifle. "Get Mercer into the crawl space! Now!" Together they lifted the unconscious sergeant and slid him beneath the floorboards, covering the entrance with an old tarp and crates. Rex stayed by the door, silent but coiled, eyes fixed on the window. Outside, the snow shimmered with light as the 2 operatives approached. Through the glass, Ethan could see the red insignia stitched onto their shoulders, a stylized phoenix. One of the men spoke, voice muffled behind a respirator. "No heat signatures. Must have frozen with the others." "Reeves said, check everything," the second replied. "If you find the dog, terminate it." Ethan's finger tightened on the trigger, but he stayed still. Rex's muscles quivered beside him, every instinct screaming to attack. The men circled the cabin once, scanning, then stopped. The taller one turned toward the woods. "Signal's cold. We move." Moments later, their shapes vanished into the storm. The hum of an idling engine started again, then faded. Dana exhaled slowly. "They were Phoenix, weren't they?" Ethan nodded. "Helios reborn." Her eyes searched his. "Then you know what we're up against." He looked out the window, the storm burying the last traces of their footprints. "Yeah," he said quietly, "and if Reeves behind this, it's only just begun." Rex pressed close to his leg, gaze locked on the dark forest beyond the glass, as if he could already sense what waited in the cold, the ghosts of a past neither man nor dog had ever escaped. By the fourth morning of the storm, Frost Hollow felt deserted. A white silence stretching for miles. Ethan Ward stood beside his truck, its engine idling weakly in the cold, as he packed what little he had, a lantern, rope, first aid kit, and 2 loaded magazines. The sky was the color of gunmetal, clouds pressed low over the mountains like a lid. Dana Ruiz stood at the cabin door, her shoulders still bandaged. "You're really going out there?" she asked. Ethan adjusted his coat. "The men who hit your patrol weren't ghosts. They came from somewhere. I intend to find out where." "Then you're walking into the storm," she warned. "I've lived in worse," he said. Rex barked softly beside him, ready. She hesitated, then handed him the black Helios radio. "It stopped transmitting after last night. Maybe it'll light up again if you're near their base." Ethan nodded. "If I'm not back by nightfall, you know what to do." "Don't die, Ward," Dana said, half a plea, half an order. He managed a faint grin. "Not planning to." The truck groaned up the icy trail, tires biting through the crusted snow. Rex sat in the passenger seat, breath fogging the glass. They followed the blooded path from the wreck down to the old mining road that curved along the cliffs. It was the kind of place that didn't appear on any map anymore. Too remote, too forgotten. As the storm thickened, the radio began to hum faintly. Static first, then a pulse, like a heartbeat. Ethan adjusted the dial. A mechanical voice broke through. "Coordinates confirmed. Warehouse 17. Reeve protocol active." Rex's ears perked. Ethan slammed the brakes. Ahead, through the curtain of snow, he could barely make out a structure, a squat concrete bunker half buried under the drifts. Above the rusted doors, letters chipped by decades of frost read, "U.S. Military Storage, Site 17, Warehouse 17, Ethan muttered. They entered cautiously. Inside, the air was colder than outside, heavy with the smell of oil and rust. Frost glistened on the steel beams like crystal veins. Racks of old crates and broken generators filled the space. Rex moved ahead, nose to the ground. His low growl guided Ethan toward the back wall, where a section of floor looked newer, concrete poured recently. Ethan crouched, brushing away the snow and dust. Beneath it, faint lines formed a rectangular outline, a hidden hatch. He pried at the edges with his knife until metal scraped against metal. With a grunt, the hatch lifted, revealing a narrow staircase descending into black. Ethan flicked on his lantern. The air that rose from below was dry and sterile, like an abandoned hospital. He descended slowly, Rex padding silently behind him. The stairs opened into a long corridor lined with flickering bulbs. The walls bore faded stencils. Project Helios, authorized personnel only. Ethan's heartbeat quickened. The memories flooded back. The tents in Basra, the dogs pacing behind steel bars, Reeves' cold lectures about rewiring instinct. He'd walked away from all of it. He'd thought it died with the war. At the corridor's end stood a heavy door, its keypad long dead. Ethan forced it open with a crowbar, the hinges screaming in protest. Beyond lay a wide chamber filled with overturned filing cabinets, papers scattered across the floor like dead leaves. Most were burnt along the edges, the smell of old smoke still lingering. In the corner, a half-melted placard read, Behavioral Enhancement Trials, Section 4C. Ethan set down his lantern and began sorting through the debris. Many documents were unreadable, but a few pages survived. He skimmed the headings. Neuro 9 Application Metrics, Cognitive Override, Canine Subject P7, Exceptional Stability. He froze at the last one. P7. Rex. He turned to look at his dog, who was now standing near the far wall, fur bristling, staring at something half-buried under debris. Ethan crossed the room. A man lay there, face pale, under the frost. He wore a U.S. Army uniform, patches torn, insignia barely visible. But the name tag caught the lantern's light. Re-E-B-D. Ethan's breath caught. No. He crouched, checking for any sign of life. The skin was cold, but the wound on his chest, a clean bullet hole, was fresh. The blood hadn't yet frozen completely. Whoever this man was, he died within hours. Rex sniffed the air, then growled low, backing away. Ethan noticed something strange. Small metallic ports along the side of the corpse's neck, embedded like surgical connectors. A faint hum still came from them. Jesus Christ, he whispered. On the wall behind the body, scrawled in something dark and wet, were words written in shaky block letters. It's not dead. It's awake. A shiver ran down Ethan's spine. He turned back to the corpse. The face. It was Reeve, but not. The jawline was right, the scar across the brow familiar, but the eyes were glassy implants, faintly glowing beneath the lids. A duplicate. A reconstruction. Somebody rebuilt you, Ethan murmured, and then somebody killed you. He searched the pockets and found a small data drive wrapped in foil. Taped to it was a note, written in the same shaking hand. Phoenix isn't rebirth. It's replacement. The radio on Ethan's belt crackled. A voice, distorted, mechanical, spoke just 3 words. Leave. It. Sleep. Rex barked once, sharply. The lights flickered overhead. Ethan didn't wait to see what else might wake up. He pocketed the drive, grabbed his lantern, and headed back up the stairs. By the time they reached the surface, the storm had thickened again, wind screaming through the trees. But above the howl, Ethan swore he could still hear that faint hum. The same frequency that had come from the corpse's neck, pulsing beneath the snow like something buried but breathing. He looked at Rex. It's not over, boy. Not even close. Rex growled softly in agreement. They climbed into the truck and drove toward the ridge, the white horizon swallowing them whole. Behind them, deep beneath the frozen ground, a single red light blinked to life inside the bunker. By the 5th night of the storm, the mountains had fallen eerily quiet. The kind of silence that came after a scream, not peace, but exhaustion. Ethan Ward sat by the fire, the Helios data drive spinning slowly between his fingers. Each turn caught the firelight, flashing like a warning. The files he'd taken from Warehouse 17 were encrypted beyond his ability to break. But one name had appeared in the metadata, Dr. Harper Lane. He hadn't heard it in nearly 15 years. Ethan reached for the radio. Static, then a faint female voice. If anyone can hear this, this is Dr. Harper Lane, formerly of Helios Division. I repeat. The signal cracked and vanished. Rex lifted his head, ears twitching. Ethan exhaled slowly. Guess that answers that. He didn't sleep that night. When dawn came, pale, brittle, the wind biting, he packed his truck again. Dana protested, of course, still weak from her wounds. You can't keep chasing ghosts, she said. Ghosts built this, he answered, tapping the data drive. Then take someone with you. Ethan glanced at Kyle Mercer, still unconscious but improving, and shook his head. You'll need to keep him breathing. I'll be back before dark. That was a lie, and they both knew it. He drove south through the storm, Rex beside him, following the old highway toward Denver. But 50 miles out, a barricade of snow swallowed the road. Beyond it, the world was a blur of white and wind. He had no chance of reaching the city. Then, as if fate had overheard, A pair of headlights appeared in the distance. A small SUV crawled up the slope, tires spinning through the ice. When it stopped beside his truck, the driver's door opened, and out stepped Dr. Harper Lane. She was in her mid-40s now, but time had not softened her, only tempered her. Tall, lean, with copper-brown hair tied beneath a wool cap, her face sharp with fatigue and purpose. Snow clung to her parka, her gloved hands trembled slightly from the cold, but her eyes, gray and restless, were alive with defiance. "Still driving into storms, I see," she said, voice muffled by the wind. Ethan stared for a moment, then almost smiled. "Still pretending you didn't start them." She gave a humorless laugh. "Fair enough." They took shelter inside his truck, heat blasting through the vents. For a while, neither spoke. The years between them felt heavier than the snow outside. "You disappeared after Basra," Ethan said finally. "Everyone thought you were dead." "I was supposed to be," Harper replied. "Helios was shut down. Officially. Unofficially, they rebranded. Phoenix Program. Same funding, different logo." Ethan showed her the data drive. "Found this under a body in Warehouse 17. Looked like Reeve, but wrong." Harper's face went pale. Reeve wasn't just leading the project. He became it. He uploaded parts of his cognitive pattern during the early Tietas. Trials. That's what Phoenix perfected. Not resurrection, replication. They don't rebuild minds. They overwrite them. Ethan frowned. "You're telling me the Reeve I saw in Iraq was the last human version. The one running Phoenix now might not even know where he ends and the code begins." Rex whined softly, his gaze flicking between them. Harper's eyes softened when she saw him. "You kept him." "Yeah," Ethan said quietly. "Didn't know what he was back then, just knew he saved my life." She crouched, running her gloved hand along Rex's neck. "He was one of the P-series, Prototype 7, the only one who didn't break. Neuro 9 rewired most of them beyond sanity, but Rex adapted." Ethan looked uneasy. "Adapted?" Harper nodded. "Because you broke protocol. You bonded with him emotionally. The compound was designed to suppress fear and enhance obedience, but affection created feedback, neutralized the aggression pattern. He didn't become a weapon. He became loyal." Ethan's jaw clenched. "So he's alive because of love." Harper met his gaze. "Exactly, but if Phoenix has restarted the program, they'll come for him. He's the control variable they lost." The words sank like ice. Outside, the wind howled across the ridge. Ethan looked at the drive again. "What's Neuro 9 made from?" "Modified neuropeptides. It rewires the amygdala, shuts down fear entirely. Reeve believed fear was the root of conflict. He thought removing it would make soldiers perfect." "Instead, it made monsters," Ethan said. Harper nodded grimly. "And now they're trying again. They called it the Phoenix Program because they think they're rising from the ashes. But you and I both know what burns first." Silence filled the cab. The wind howled louder. Then, from outside, a sharp crack echoed. Not thunder. A rifle. Ethan reached instinctively for his weapon. "Stay down." Rex growled low, eyes locking on the tree line. Through the blizzard, faint movement flickered, shapes in white armor slipping between the trees like ghosts. "They followed me," Harper whispered. "I thought I lost them on Route 285. "Phoenix?" She nodded. "They must have traced my transmission." Ethan chambered around. "Then let's make sure they regret finding us." Gunfire erupted, muffled by snow but deadly close. Bullets tore through the truck windows. Glass sprayed the dashboard. Ethan returned fire, methodical, controlled. Rex lunged through the open door, tackling one of the white-clad soldiers head-on, his bark echoing like thunder. When the smoke cleared, 3 men lay in the snow. Harper crouched beside one, pulling back his mask, a young face, barely 20. A faint chemical burn scar traced down his neck. "Neuro 9 injection mark," she said grimly. "They're not just using the formula on K9s anymore." Ethan looked toward the horizon. "Then it's spreading." Harper met his eyes. "We can still stop it. The main Phoenix facility, Frost Hollow sector. That's where Reeves' signal originated. If we get there, we can end it." Ethan tightened his grip on the rifle. "Then we go back into the storm." She looked at Rex. "They'll come for him first." Ethan nodded. "Let them try." The wind screamed across the peaks as they drove north again, back into the snow that had birthed every ghost of the past. And somewhere in the distance, unseen but listening, a mechanical voice whispered through an old radio channel. "Subject P7 reacquired. Commence retrieval." The 6th night of the storm came down like judgment. The wind howled across Frost Hollow, tearing at the pines, the snow whipping sideways in sheets of silver. Inside Ethan Ward's cabin, the fire roared, but the warmth did little to push back the cold that had settled in their bones. Dana Ruiz was pacing, her left arm in a sling. She looked better, stronger, though the dark circles beneath her eyes told another story. Across the room, Harper Lane hunched over Ethan's workbench, soldering wires to the beacon device they'd recovered from the Phoenix soldiers. Its small red light blinked like a heartbeat. Rex lay near the door, silent but alert. Every few minutes, he'd lift his head and glance toward the window, ears twitching at something beyond human hearing. Ethan checked his rifle, chambering a fresh round. "They'll trace that signal," he said quietly. Harper didn't look up. "I'm counting on it." Dana frowned. "That's insane. You're baiting them?" Harper nodded. "We need them to lead us back. That beacon transmits on an encrypted Phoenix frequency. If they try to retrieve it, we can track the return ping to its source." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "And when they do?" She met his gaze, steady. "We go to them before they come for us." Outside, the wind screamed through the eaves. The storm had entered its 6th day, the kind that made men believe the mountains were alive and angry. Kyle Mercer stirred from the cot, groaning as he sat up. "What the hell did I miss?" Ethan handed him water. "About 2 near-death experiences and a small war." Kyle cracked a smile, though his voice was still gravel. "Same old fieldwork, then." Dana filled him in quickly. The attack, the Phoenix insignia, the Neuro 9 serum. His expression hardened with each word. "Command's been covering something," he muttered. "We filed reports about black vehicles months ago. Ops nobody claimed. They called us paranoid." "Not paranoid enough," Harper said. Ethan stared at the beacon's blinking light. "So where's this signal heading?" Harper connected the final wire. A low hum filled the room, followed by coordinates flickering on her laptop screen. "Frost Hollow sector, grid 9-3, old Helio substation, built under the mountain. That's where they're nesting." Rex let out a low growl, tail stiff. Dana grabbed her weapon. "Then we move before they do." Ethan shook his head. "Not yet. They'll come first. That's what I'd do." As if on cue, the cabin lights flickered. The sound of engines rumbled faintly through the snow. More than one. Harper's eyes widened. "They found us already." Ethan killed the lanterns. "Positions, now." They spread out, Dana by the window, Kyle by the bullboard by the back door. Harper crouched behind the table, clutching the laptop. Rex stood in the center, low stance, eyes fixed on the dark outside. Through the storm, figures emerged, white shapes with crimson Phoenix emblems glowing faintly under night vision beams. The air filled with the muffled clatter of boots and static radio chatter. The first shot shattered the silence. Glass exploded inward. Dana returned fire instantly, bullets cutting streaks through the snow-filled night. The cabin shook with the echo. Rex lunged through the open door, tackling a soldier in mid-stride, dragging him into the snow. Another fired. Ethan dropped him with a clean headshot. The firefight lit the forest with flashes of orange and blue. Kyle gritted his teeth, firing short bursts. "Two flanking left! I see them!" Ethan shouted, switching positions. "Rex, back!" The dog obeyed instantly, sprinting behind cover as a grenade detonated near the porch, sending splinters of wood raining down. The shock wave knocked Harper to the floor. Her laptop skidded across the room, still displaying the coordinates. Dana crawled toward her. "You okay?" Harper coughed, nodding. "The beacon's still active. They're tracking it." Ethan reloaded. "Then let's give them something to find." He grabbed the beacon and tossed it out the shattered window. It landed in the snowbank 10 meters away, blinking faster now. The soldiers advanced toward it, their formation tightening. "Wait for it," Ethan whispered. When the first man reached the beacon, Ethan fired. The round hit the device dead center. It exploded in a burst of sparks, disorienting the attackers with a flash of blinding light. Rex charged, dragging one down as Dana and Kyle opened fire. The firefight lasted less than 2 minutes, but when it ended, 6 Phoenix soldiers lay motionless in the snow. The rest vanished into the trees, their retreat covered by the storm. The forest went still again, save for the wind. Ethan lowered his rifle. His breath came in harsh clouds. "Everyone intact?" "More or less," Dana said, brushing snow from her hair. Harper exhaled shakily. "You just blew our only tracker." Ethan pointed to the blinking remnant half buried in the snow. "Not the only one." He dug it out and held up a second transmitter, smaller, older, embedded beneath the beacon's casing. The screen flickered faintly with text. "Beacon Re-03. Active." Harper stared. Reeve-03. That was his field designation. Ethan nodded grimly. Then he's still out there. And this was his leash. She looked down at the destroyed soldiers, realization dawning. He's been using them to find you. The beacon wasn't ours to trace. It was his to command. Dana stepped closer. "Then he knows we're alive." Ethan looked out toward the black horizon, snow swirling like ash. "Good," he said quietly. "Let him come." Harper shook her head. "Ethan, you don't get it. If Reeve-03 is active, it means he's not dead. He's running the Phoenix network remotely. He's the system now. Then we—" "Find the main hub," Ethan said. "Frost Hollow Grid 9-3. End it at the source." Kyle leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. "You're talking suicide." Ethan glanced at Rex, who sat beside him, calm, resolute. "Then we'll die on our own terms." Harper hesitated, then nodded slowly. "There's a chance we can shut it down. If we reach the central AI core, destroy the power source, we sever the network. But it's buried under the mountain." "Then that's where we're going," Ethan said. Outside, the wind shifted, carrying the faint wail of sirens far below in the valley. Whether it was rescue or pursuit, none of them could tell. But in that flickering firelight, 4 survivors and 1 scarred dog surrounded by the ghosts of war, there was no fear, only grim purpose. Harper looked into the flames and whispered, almost to herself, "Helios died on paper. Phoenix rose from its ashes, but maybe this time the fire burns both." Ethan nodded once, loading his rifle. "Then we end it tomorrow." Rex barked softly, the sound low and steady, as if he understood. Outside, the storm began to ease, the first calm in 6 days. But calm in Frost Hollow never meant peace. The 7th night came without a sunrise. By dawn, the storm had drained the sky of color, leaving only shades of gray and silence. Ethan Ward drove the snowcat up the last stretch of the ridge, its treads biting into ice older than the town itself. Harper sat beside him, map spread across her knees. Dana and Kyle were in the back, checking their weapons. Rex stood between them, braced against the vibration, breath misting against the window. They had been climbing since before midnight, following the coordinates Harper extracted from the beacon. The terrain grew crueler the higher they went, cliffs glazed with ice, pine trunks snapped like matchsticks. But as the storm thinned, the mountain revealed itself, a frozen cathedral of wind and stone. "There," Harper said, pointing toward a cliff face barely visible through the snow. "Helios Substation 9. It was built under the San Isabel Range in the 80s. Cold War-era geothermal plant. Phoenix repurposed it." The snowcat reached a plateau overlooking a half-buried structure, a bunker of black steel and concrete, its entrance sealed by a frozen blast door. Above it, faint red lights blinked rhythmically through the snow. Dana stared. "Those look active." Harper's jaw tightened. "That's not supposed to be possible. Power was cut decades ago." Ethan shut off the engine. The silence pressed in. "Then we're not the first ones here." They approached on foot. The blast door was caked in frost, but the keypad beside it glowed faintly green. Harper brushed off the ice and pulled out a portable power tap. "If I can override the lock, I can piggyback the main line and access their internal grid." "Make it fast," Ethan said. Rex stood guard, ears pricked. His breath came quick and shallow. Not fear, but memory. The lock hissed. The door groaned open, releasing a rush of stale, metallic air. Inside, the corridor sloped downward into darkness, walls slick with frost. Old warning signs peeled under their flashlights. Biohazard, restricted zone, neural containment. Harper frowned. "It's still drawing heat from the geothermal vents. That's how they kept it alive." They descended deeper. The air grew warmer, mist swirling around their boots. The deeper chambers hummed faintly, the sound of dormant machines dreaming. Kyle stopped suddenly. "You hear that?" A faint rhythmic beeping echoed ahead. They followed it into a vast chamber lined with glass pods. Each pod held a still shape inside. Canines, suspended in translucent ice, tubes snaking from their spines. The labels on each read, Subject P1, Subject P2, Subject P3. Harper moved slowly past each one until she stopped at the far end. One pod still glowed blue. Frost crawled across the inside, but the internal lights flickered steadily. Subject P7, active. Rex stiffened. A low whine escaped him as he stepped closer, sniffing the glass. Inside the pod was another Rex, younger, smaller, identical down to the scar above the left paw. Ethan's stomach turned. "What the hell am I looking at?" Harper swallowed hard. "Replication. The first Rex, yours, was the prototype that survived. They must have cloned his neural map for behavioral reinforcement testing." Dana whispered, "So there were more of him." "Not anymore," Harper said. "P7A's still running life support, but the others—" She gestured to the dark pods. "They didn't make it." Ethan touched the glass gently. The duplicate dog inside didn't move. Harper began typing on the console. "Wait, there's more." A video file loaded automatically. Its label flickered, archive footage, 2003, Project Helios, Major D, Reeve. The screen came alive with static, then color. Ethan saw himself, younger, uniform crisp, eyes sharp, standing beside Reeve in a training yard under the Iraqi sun. Between them, a smaller Rex barked eagerly. Reeve's voice, calm and clinical, echoed through the room. "Fear can be erased. Loyalty can be programmed." The footage jumped, Rex lunging through fire, obeying every command without hesitation. Then Ethan's younger self looked at the dog, not as an asset, but as a friend. And the camera caught it. That moment, the one Reeve had never understood. The video ended. Silence. Ethan stepped back, throat tight. That's why he lived. He wasn't programmed. He chose me. Harper nodded. That choice is what broke their code. He became the anomaly, proof that emotion can override design. Suddenly, the floor vibrated. A deep alarm echoed through the chamber. Red lights flared across the ceiling. Dana shouted, "What did you touch?" Harper frantically hit keys. "I didn't. It's automatic. Reeves failsafe. The system just recognized the archive access." The walls trembled as metal shutters slammed down, sealing exits. Steam hissed from vents. The words, "Facility alert, remote override initiated," flashed on every screen. Rex barked furiously, circling Ethan. A speaker crackled overhead, a voice distorted and low. "You shouldn't have come back, Sergeant Ward." Ethan froze. The voice was metallic but familiar. "Reeve," he breathed. "Helios was never yours to end," the voice said. "You and your animal were variables. I corrected the equation." Harper shouted into the mic. "What are you, Reeve? The man I knew died years ago." A faint chuckle. "Not dead. Improved." The floor split open, revealing a descending platform leading deeper underground. Blue light spilled upward from below. Reeves' voice echoed again. "Come down, Ethan. See what your loyalty has built." The sound faded into static. Ethan met Harper's eyes. "That's our invitation." Dana looked pale. "This is a trap." He nodded. "Yeah, but traps work both ways." He slung his rifle, gestured to Rex. "Stay close." Together they stepped onto the platform. As it sank into the light, the last words Reeve left behind crackled faintly through the intercom. "Project Phoenix lives. Fear dies tonight." The platform disappeared into the depths, leaving only the hum of machinery and the silent, frost-covered pods above, the ghosts of dogs who never got to choose. The elevator sank for nearly a full minute before stopping with a metallic groan. When the doors slid open, heat rolled out in a wave so strong it fogged their visors. The air smelled of metal and ozone. Below the frozen mountain, fire was alive. Ethan Ward stepped out first, rifle drawn. The chamber ahead was vast, a cathedral of steel and flame, powered by the geothermal vents Harper had mentioned. Blue coolant pipes ran like veins across the ceiling, feeding into a massive reactor core at the center. Its red light pulsed like a heart. On the upper platform stood Major Donald Reeve, or what was left of him. Half his face was human, scarred, aged, eyes sharp as ever. The other half gleamed under the lights, polished steel plates fused to bone, cables running down into his neck. He wore a black exosuit that hissed with hydraulic breath, and when he smiled, it was half mechanical, half memory. "Sergeant Ward," Reeve said. His voice echoed through hidden speakers, layered and distorted. "You made good time." Ethan leveled his rifle. "You're a long way from Iraq, Major." Reeve laughed softly. "I never left the battlefield, Ethan. I just moved it underground." Harper, standing behind Ethan, whispered, "He integrated with the Helios AI. He is the system now." Reeve tilted his head. "Integration, evolution. Call it what you want. I survived what the rest of you feared." "Fear's what kept us human," Ethan said. Reeve's metal hand clenched. "Fear is weakness. It clouds judgment. It breeds hesitation. I erased it." "You erased your soul," Harper snapped. Reeve's gaze shifted to her. "Ah, Dr. Lane, the conscience of Helios. You left us because you couldn't face what perfection required." "Perfection," she said bitterly. "You turned men into machines." "I turned them into something better." Ethan took a step forward. You murdered them. You experimented on soldiers who trusted you, on dogs who couldn't say no." Reeves' mechanical eye flickered. "And yet one of those dogs became your savior. You and your P7 are proof my work succeeded." Rex growled low, his body tense. Reeve gestured toward the massive console beside him. "I can still finish it. Neuro 9's release cycle has begun. Once the vents open, the compound will reach the upper atmosphere. No more fear, no more pain. Humanity reborn." Ethan raised his rifle. "Over my dead body." Reeve smiled. "That can be arranged." Before he could fire, the floor shook violently. Hidden blast doors opened along the walls, and Phoenix soldiers poured out, white armor glinting under red light. The firefight erupted instantly. Dana Ruiz and Kyle Mercer took cover behind a maintenance platform, returning fire in bursts. Harper crouched beside the reactor's control terminal, desperately typing. "Harper," Ethan shouted, "can you stop the release?" "Working on it," she yelled back, fingers flying over the keys. "But he's got manual override on his end. I need physical access." Ethan motioned to Rex. "With me." They moved through the chaos, weaving between bursts of gunfire. Rex lunged at one soldier, dragging him down before he could aim. Ethan shot another cleanly through the chest. The noise was deafening, steel, bullets, and the roar of the reactor merging into one continuous scream. Reeve watched calmly from the upper deck, his voice booming. "You can't kill what's already been perfected." He triggered the reactor's emergency bypass. Alarms wailed. Red lights turned crimson. Steam exploded from the floor vents. Harper shouted, "He's overheating the core. If it breaches, the Neuro 9 will aerosolize." Ethan climbed the metal stairs 2 at a time, Rex beside him. The closer he got, the hotter the air grew, until the paint on the railings began to blister. Reeve turned, aiming a plasma pistol integrated into his right arm. "You always were predictable, Ethan. Loyal to a fault." He fired. The blast tore into the railing, sending sparks into Ethan's face. Ethan ducked, firing back. The bullet ricocheted, tearing through the cables on Reeve's shoulder. The Major staggered, one arm sparking violently. "You can't stop this," Reeve hissed. "It's already begun. Then I'll stop you." They clashed near the reactor core, Reeve's strength mechanical, Ethan's driven by fury. Reeve struck first, backhanding him across the platform. Ethan slammed into a console, ribs cracking. Rex lunged, clamping his jaws on Reeve's armored forearm. Sparks flew as the metal buckled under sheer instinct. Reeve roared, kicking the shepherd aside. Ethan rose, blood streaking his cheek. "You taught me one thing, Reeve," he said through gritted teeth. "Machines break easier than men." He grabbed a steel rod from the floor and rammed it into the cracked socket on Reeve's chest plate. Electricity surged through both men. Reeve convulsed, screaming, half voice, half static. Ethan pulled away just before the explosion. The reactor's alarm spiked. Harper's voice came over the radio. "Ethan, the failsafe's gone. It's going to blow." Reeve, on his knees, stared up at him. One eye human, one burning red. "You think you've won?" he rasped. "Phoenix will rise again. It always does." Ethan aimed his rifle. "Not today." The shot pierced Reeve's remaining eye. He fell backward into the reactor's molten light. The blast that followed shook the entire mountain. "Move!" Ethan shouted. He sprinted back down the stairs, flames licking at his boots. Rex limped beside him, wounded but alive. They reached Harper and the others as the floor cracked open. "Exit tunnel!" Dana yelled. They ran through collapsing corridors, snow and fire mixing into chaos. The mountain roared, a sound like the earth itself was exhaling. When they burst out into the freezing dawn, the sky behind them split with flame. Helios, Substation 9, collapsed into itself, vanishing beneath a plume of steam and ash. Ethan fell to his knees, coughing, clutching Rex against him. The dog whimpered softly, his side bleeding. "Easy, boy," Ethan whispered. "We're home." Weeks passed. Spring came to Frost Hollow. Cautious, quiet. The snow receded, revealing the scars left behind by war and science alike. On the site where the mountain once burned, a new building rose, Rex Ridge Rescue, Veteran and Canine Rehabilitation Center. Children's laughter echoed where alarms once blared. Former soldiers trained new rescue dogs in the fields. Harper managed logistics. Dana ran field drills. Kyle, his arm still stiff, taught obedience training with surprising patience. Ethan stood near the fence one morning, coffee in hand, watching Rex limp across the yard, tail wagging. The shepherd was older now, grayer around the muzzle, but his eyes still burned with life. Harper joined him. "You never told me why you named it Rex Ridge." Ethan smiled faintly. "Because he's the reason any of us are still standing." She looked toward the horizon. "You think Reeves really gone?" Ethan stared at the distant mountains. "Maybe not, but what he built died with him. That's enough." Rex trotted back, pressing his head against Ethan's leg. Ethan knelt, hand resting on the dog's fur. "No drug can cure fear," he murmured. "Only love can." Rex looked up at him, eyes bright and steady, the kind of loyalty no experiment could create. Above them, the morning sun cut through the last of the frost, and for the first time in a long while, the world felt warm again. Sometimes miracles don't come wrapped in light. They come on four legs, through the snow, carrying the kind of love no science can explain. Ethan thought he had lost everything, his faith, his purpose, his reason to believe. But through one loyal soul, God whispered again that love is stronger than fear, and redemption can be born even in the coldest places. Perhaps that's the true miracle, not that we survive, but that we keep choosing love despite the world's frost. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who still believes in second chances. Leave a comment below. Tell us where you're watching from. And may God bless you, your home, and every loyal friend who walks beside you in this life. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories of faith, hope, and the unbreakable bond between man and his best friend. Because sometimes the greatest miracles still walk among us, quiet, faithful, and covered in fur.